Hey kids, it's Tuesday. Welcome to the Randy Karraker Show. Sorry we're running a little bit late. I'm waiting for Rockio, and he still hasn't shown up. So I thought, you know what, I'll just go talk to the people because I know you folks have a lot that you want to talk about. So we will talk. The first thing that I want to mention is that we need to change that open. It was one thing just to have Radek Faksa on the open, but now that we have both Brendan Donovan and Radek Faksa on the open, I think maybe we should probably get some current players for our teams in there. Nabes is in there. That's great. But maybe put a little Mason Wynn action in there. Maybe we should go with a little, Philip Broberg action. Guys that you figure are going to be around for a while rather than guys that are already gone. Anyway, it's not a complaint. It's just an observation about what we got going on here at STL Sports Central. And we have a lot of things to talk about. The Major League Baseball Players Association is an absolute soap opera right now. That'll be fun to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Cardinals and Yadier Molina as he is going to depart in a couple of weeks for the baseball classic, the World Baseball Classic. But he's going to be back, and I don't know if you saw, and we'll see if we can get the clip yesterday that we had where Ollie Marmol said, hey, I don't want him just to be a guy that works with the catchers. I want him to work with everybody. I want him to be able to imbue people with the competitiveness that he played with. I think that's a great thing, and it really does appear, and it's early on. I questioned whether or not Yadi was going to be engaged in teaching players, but he sure seems to be. He got there early. He made sure that he had every single catcher out on the field with him. A big giant photo taken with Yadi and all the catchers, and those guys can only benefit from his knowledge if he decides to use some largesse in sharing that knowledge. So that's another thing we'll talk about. Plus, we have Billikens basketball in action tonight. Don't forget, we are going to be at the Key STL across from Chaffetz on Friday. We're going to do a special pregame show for the Billikens and VCU. That's going to be Friday at 3 o'clock right here on STL Sports Central. But big news of the day in sports, Tony Clark, the executive director of the Major League Baseball Players Association, has resigned. We already know that the CBA is going to expire next December. Now, he has a guy named Bruce Meyer. Clark does, or did, at least before he resigned, who is his lead negotiator, who's his bulldog, who's the guy that's going to be the negotiator. This guy, Bruce Meyer, said last time during the negotiations, I don't want anybody to like me. I go into this with the idea that I'm going to be the most hated man in America, aside from the people that he's working for, who are the players. Well, Tony Clark, not that he was very well liked, but at least he was able to rally the players. He had been around baseball. He's been a player. He's been involved with the Players Association. Bruce Meyer is a guy who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he represented mine workers or something like that. He's a union guy who's not really a baseball guy. He's in it to negotiate with management and get management to hate him. So anyway, what has happened, and this is according to ESPN, Tony Clark was already investigation by the feds for finances and other dealings that the MLBPA had with a thing called One Team Partners that apparently Tony Clark was benefiting from personally. Then an internal investigation at the Major League Baseball Players Association revealed that Clark had an inappropriate relationship with his sister-in-law. And I think in general, that's usually a pretty inappropriate relationship, right? When you have a relationship with your sister-in-law, it's pretty inappropriate. To complicate those matters, though, he hired her at the Baseball Players Association back in 2023. So not only was he having an affair with his sister-in-law, but, and this is according to ESPN, she was also working for the Major League Baseball Players Association. So he was probably doing things that don't ordinarily go over well in any sort of a corporate or management setting. So that's where Tony Clark is. He is out as the Major League Baseball Players Association executive director. And you might be sitting there saying, okay, who's going to take over? And there are a couple of people that are possibilities. One guy who knows what's going on, although he said he hated the last negotiation, but he was heavily involved and knows a lot and is a smart guy, is Max Scherzer. He was part of the executive committee last time. He said, never again. I won't be involved with those again. But he's not playing right now. He's not doing anything, at least as far as I know, and he's going to get ready and might join a team during the season. He'd be one guy. The former Cardinal, Andrew Miller, kind of quiet, not the most charismatic guy in the world. I think he would be an interesting guy, but I think the best guy that could do this job on an interim basis if the players would all accept him, and if he would accept being there for all the players. He's got charisma, he's got knowledge, he basically runs the Players Association anyway. He's got money, he can walk away from what he's doing. His name is Scott Boras. If you're a Major League Baseball player, would you rather have anybody heading the union during this time for you than Scott Boras, who has made so much for so many and has said that every single team is capable of doing what the Dodgers are doing? So if he can prove that every single team can spend $400 million and have 8 guys that are making $27 million or more, if he can prove that the Royals can do that, if he can prove that the Twins can do that, if he can prove that the Guardians and the Cardinals can do that, then you know what? Scott Boras could be the greatest person in the history of baseball, because we would all love it as fans if all of these players were making that much money and our team could pay as much as the Dodgers are paying. And he's the one that said everybody's capable of doing it. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. He's the one that said it. So you've got a guy that has that much knowledge about baseball it has said, okay, every team is capable of doing this. Go work the deal. If every team is capable of doing it, go work the deal so that every team is in a position to pay the $400 million that the Dodgers are paying their players. That's the way I'm looking at it. Dwight STL, how much does this sway the new CBA in favor of the owners? I think the next 30 days will be huge for the Players Association. I don't think at the moment it does, because Meyer is still there. And Clark is kind of a ringleader, kind of a PR guy. He's not that he's not involved in the negotiations, but the nuts and bolts battler in these negotiations is Bruce Meyer. If the players would go get a guy like Scott Boras, I think that they could tie things up. I don't think that it would swing in favor of the owners, but you need to get the right guy. And I'm not so sure, and this was before Tony Clark got into all these shenanigans, I'm not so sure Tony Clark was the right guy for the players either. I think that executive committee that was primarily represented by Scott Boras, last executive committee, I think those are the guys that really won the battle last time. It wasn't necessarily Tony Clark. Tony Clark is a former player, and he says what the agents tell him to say, primarily Scott Boras. So I think that ultimately, if you look down the road, if the Major League Baseball Players Association can find a guy that has the qualities and the charisma that you're looking for, I think they could wind up being in better shape. One other note, by the way, about this investigation, and this is the federal prosecutors that are investigating. A former NFLPA lawyer alleged that Clark and Lloyd Howell, who was fired by the NFL Players Association, mounted a pressure campaign to shut down a thorough review of a proposed bonus plan that would have paid millions of dollars to one team, executive board members. One team is the group, it was a youth baseball foundation, basically, that served as a vessel to get people paid a bunch of money. So apparently, according to the prosecutors, at least they're investigating this, both Lloyd Howell from the NFLPA and Tony Clark were involved with this. You know, it's interesting. A couple of last year, Rob Manfred said, if you baseball players would have taken a salary cap 20 years ago in 1994, 21 years ago, and it was offered, he said, you would have made $2 billion more. How much more would these players have made if NFL and Major League Baseball, if they didn't have these guys, Clark and Howell, allegedly taking money out of their wallets? It really is a bad situation now, a bad look for the Major League Baseball Players Association leadership and the NFLPA leadership. And this has nothing to do, it's not the fault of the players, although they hired the guys, but you get guys that get a little power and they see all that money and they're more than willing to take it. You mama, A-Rod would do it. He's in on everything. Yeah. You know, I wonder if the players like A-Rod enough. He could be a part of it. I don't know if he's ever done the negotiations. Who do fans favor, players or owners? I get the sense that and I know it's billionaires versus millionaires, but I get the sense right now, and tell me if you disagree, and I can disagree respectfully, but I get the sense that as a fan myself, I would rather have more competitive balance. And I've said this before, and if you've heard me, I apologize, but with a salary cap in the NHL, the Edmonton Oilers can go to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row when the LA Kings don't. The Anaheim Ducks can be the worst team in hockey for a few years, even though they play in ostensibly the number 2 market, and the Edmonton Oilers can go to the finals. In the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder can play the Indiana Pacers in the championship. The Oklahoma City Thunder can be looked at as a future dynasty, but the one team that could block them from being a dynasty is the San Antonio Spurs, another small market. Well, you see the Lakers finishing in 6th all the time, or the Knicks failing to make the playoffs, although they've been better of late. In the NFL, the Kansas City Chiefs can compete for a championship every single season. The Kansas City Royals cannot. In the NFL, the Green Bay Packers can compete for a championship every year. The Milwaukee Brewers cannot. In Pittsburgh, the Steelers can compete for a championship every year. At least make the playoffs every year. The Pittsburgh Pirates cannot. So for all of the talk and the rhetoric from the players about how a salary cap would hurt them, to me, you have a premium placed on intelligent front offices when you have a salary floor and a salary cap. In baseball, the Yankees and Dodgers can dominate and have a chance every year. And you aren't going to win every year, but they have a chance every year. And in the NFL, sure, the Giants and the Jets have a chance, but they're so dumb that those two franchises have the worst combined records in the NFL over the last 11 years. The two worst combined records in the NFL over the last 11 years are the Jets at the bottom and the Giants at number 31. To me, that's what a salary cap does. It puts a premium on front office intelligence. Not that the Dodgers don't have front office intelligence, because they do, but you can't kill a fly with a sledgehammer like the Dodgers do if you have a salary floor and a salary cap. So from this fan's standpoint, I am of the belief that a salary cap would be a good thing, and therefore I'm on the side of the owners. And one other point to be made here is, well, Randy, you want the owners to make all the money? Right now, baseball owners are paying 43% of their revenues to the players. With all the other caps, the revenues are split 50-50. The players would actually be making more money. Now, the owners' values of their franchises would go up, no question about that. And because of the competitive balance, they might make more from ancillary items. But I am not convinced that the baseball owners would be doing substantially better on a year-to-year basis if they had a salary cap. Would they be doing better? Yes, but I think a rising tide would lift all boats. I think everybody would be doing better. We've seen it in hockey. We've seen it in basketball. We've seen it in football. Okay, you mama. Giants owner was too busy on a certain island. Well, maybe, but they had two owners. And the other owner, well, okay, yeah, he was busy on a certain island. They just are an incompetent organization. That's what I'm talking about. A premium is put on competence when you have a salary cap and a salary floor. Okay, Henry Wells, how late will Rock be? Randy works hard to put on a fantastic production every day. To have him waiting, even with the notice, is just disrespectful. Typical for a bird-bashing Cardinal Karen like Rock. Oh, come on. No, let's be nice to Rock, okay? He's working hard today. He's working soccer. So we're going to have better St. Louis City SC knowledge here because of Rock at STL Sports Central than you will have anywhere else. So I'm not bothered by it, but I do appreciate that you think that we put on a quality production here. Okay, Henry Wells, especially with the ML Baseball Players Association news and the start of Cardinals camp, bad day to be late. Well, it is what it is. So we're not worried about it, okay? I'm talking to you guys. This is where you guys come in and your chats are heard and you and I can just have a discussion. Hey, this is what STL Sports Central is all about. It's your opportunity to react. And actually, I kind of feel bad sometimes because I don't think I do a good enough job of hearing you guys and letting you get your comments in. So I'm here to respond to you guys. And Rock is not a slacker. I don't have soft hands. Revenue sharing from networks, too. That's a great point. And there's a piece in The Athletic this morning. I'm going to have a sip of water. A piece in The Athletic this morning, before all of this came out, that Rob Manfred's biggest job is not going to be the negotiations against the players' union. It's going to be his negotiations with his own owners. And the problem I believe that ultimately baseball will have is that the Dodgers, who are making like $750, $800 million a year in revenue, and the Cardinals make about 250, 270, maybe it's $3, but the Dodgers revenue is off the charts. So is the Yankees revenue and the Mets revenue and the Cubs revenue. So what Rob Manfred is going to have to do is convince those few big market owners to share revenue with the small market owners. And that is the wonder of the NFL. There are two reasons that the NFL is the way it is, and it's awesome. And they have a ton of really highly paid players. But there's a couple of reasons. Number one, the fact that every game is on national TV. They don't have to worry at all about local TV revenue, except for preseason games, and there's only 3 of those, and local radio, which can be substantial, and you don't have to share that. But NFL gate revenue is shared 60-40, and NFL TV revenue, where the big money is, the national TV revenue is shared equally with every single team. And that's because way back in the day, the Giants were willing to do that. At this point in time, would the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the Cubs, the Red Sox be willing to share their revenue, not even across the board, but would they be willing to go 60-40? And I know that we already have mild revenue sharing in baseball, but would they be willing to go 60-40 with a team, for the Cardinals example, making $40 million from television? Are the Dodgers willing to share part of their $500 million from television with smaller franchises? That's the only way this will work, and that's going to be the hardest job that Rob Manfred has, is making sure that when he goes to the union and asks for a floor and a cap, he's not saying, yeah, well, if we have a cap of $260 million, the Dodgers owners, who are already really rich and they love spending money anyway, but they aren't just going to be able to pocket an extra $400 million, whereas a team like the Cardinals would make a minimal profit. Not minimal to us, but minimal relative to the Yankees and the Mets and all of those things. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And if the owners aren't willing to share revenue, then I fall down on the side of the players. If we aren't going to have revenue sharing, there's no reason to have a cap on the floor. You have to have to make it fair for the players. You have to have revenue sharing among the owners. So I think that's the way that I'll look at it. And I do. I'm malleable. I can change my opinions here about where I come down on the side. But I think right now, if the owners are all in tune with each other, then I would want a salary cap at the end of the day. But if they aren't sharing revenue, then there's no good reason to have a salary cap. Craig Lewis, this is going to be a debacle no matter whose side you're on. No one wants to meet in the middle. How about we remove the dynamic pricing? Give the fans a break from the millionaires and the billionaires. Well, I love the idea, but the reality just doesn't exist because it's the free market system. It's supply and demand. If the Dodgers come to town and there are 45,000 seats in the house and there are 40,000 Dodger fans willing to buy tickets and they will pay a premium, then why not get the premium? Now, the Cardinals have to do a better job. All the teams have to do a better job of handling the secondary market, and they all have deals with said secondary market brokers. But if let's just think about this from the perspective of a car, right? So if your Honda and people are willing to pay a premium for a CRV, and there aren't many available. But the regular Civic, you've got hundreds on the lot. Well, you keep them at their normal price. But if people want to buy the CRVs, then and you can charge a little bit more for it, why not? That's the way business is supposed to work. If you have high demand and limited supply, then you get the most bang for your buck. You take the money. I understand your argument that we would like to all be able to see the Dodgers and the Pirates for the same price, but is that smart business on the part of the baseball owners? Yes, it'd be nice for the fans. But is it smart business on the part of the owners? No. So I get your idea, and I'm frustrated by the idea of dynamic pricing as well. I also think if I were in charge, I wouldn't do anything dramatically differently. Cards in 28. I was hoping to hear if Herrera seems at all improved behind the plate. His arm is still bugging him. He's still not 100%, and he's been seeing some time in the outfield. Now, he's going to be working with Yachty. They want to work on his game management as much as his throwing. But in terms of the actual physical play behind the plate, we won't see that because he had the surgery, the arm surgery after the season. By the way, that's why he won't be able to play in the World Baseball Classic either. And so we probably won't know until late in spring training whether or not he'll be physically better. I don't know how much it takes to find out if he's physically better. He needs to have better footwork. He needs to have a better pop time to get the ball down to second base. And we probably won't find out until the last couple of weeks of spring training. And honestly, I don't know if that's enough time to really find out, because who's going to be running? Who's going to be trying to steal bases at the end of spring training? I don't know. I would love to see him get the opportunity simply because he wants it. But if Herrera isn't going to be a decent, average major league catcher, then I'm going to play him in the outfield. I mean, I'm paying him. I'm the team. I'm going to give him a shot in the outfield. I know he doesn't want to be a DH. If Burleson is a better outfielder than Herrera, then you play Burleson left and move Herrera to first. And I'm glad that Herrera is using the outfielder's glove, and I wish they would have him use the first baseman's glove too, because I don't think in the long term, if I'm the Cardinals, I want Herrera behind the plate. We saw how much he got hurt last year being a DH. So do you want to have that guy who's arguably your best hitter? Do you want to have that guy behind the plate getting nicked up all the time? I don't want to see it. All right. Craig Lewis, as someone who's traveling to see Cardinals games, I'm getting charged more than someone who is going to see the Angels. I just think they need a number of seats that always sell for $6 every game. I think the Cardinals could do that, but most teams couldn't. And that's not a bad idea. Or maybe have a family section, right? If you're going to, if you want to sell to families, have inexpensive tickets, put them in the 300s or whatever, and have families go there. And by the way, the Cardinals do a really good job of having really inexpensive tickets. I think it's for 80% of their games. They have tickets that are $10 or less. And yeah, you'd like to be able to see the Yankees or the Dodgers for less, but that's just not the reality of the situation. Hey. No more ripping of Rock because he's here now, okay?
People are ripping me?
Okay.
There he ripped? Is. I didn't know I was getting ripped.
Just check the chat, man.
Oh, geez. Duty calls. My apologies. The time was Rock is still blowing off the show. It's just straight comical. It's a seething indictment of Rock that he's just blowing off work in the middle of the day. STL Sports Central deserves better. Cards have beef him.
So this has been a common theme here.
Yeah.
For the last 25 minutes or so, brother.
Yeah, as we all know, I miss a lot of the shows. That's my apologies. Oh, Henry's active.
I'm on more than you are. By the way, I want to get to this from Enrico Palazzo. Randy, now you're just rooting for a lockout, and I guess that's based upon Rock. I said earlier to replace at least on an interim basis Tony Clark. I think the best guy the players could get, and this might not be the best thing for the owners, but I think the best guy the players could get would be Scott Boras. He's basically he's the puppeteer for the union already anyway, right? That. And he's charismatic. Yeah. He can perform for the media. He could get the players rallied behind him. If I were that group of players, and let me check and see. I don't even know who's on that executive board right now, but I know Marcus Semien is on it. But last time it was almost all Boras clients. So he's basically telling those guys what to negotiate anyway. So that's what I think, is that they should be utilize the brilliance of a guy who's got a law degree, who played minor league baseball. He knows the players already. He knows the ins and outs of the Major League Baseball Players Association. What do you think? If you were a player, wouldn't you want Scott Boras to be your front man for at least a while?
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think the rest of that 8-man committee is Marcus Semien, Chris Bassett, Jake Cronenworth, Paul Skeens, Pete Fairbanks, Brent Sutter, or Suter, my apologies if I blew that, Cedric Mullins, and Terry Skubal. So, yeah, there's a couple Boras guys on there.
Yeah. And the last time it was mostly Boras guys. So I see no reason why not. And they might have somebody in-house. It's interesting. If you look at the MLBPA website, there are not many people in the Major League Baseball Players Association offices, and that's because of this executive subcommittee. The players really are hands-on with what goes on in Major League Baseball and at the negotiating table.
Did you guys get to the update in the story?
With the sister-in-law?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
We did not. We didn't have that beforehand. Before I went into St. Louis City Media, we didn't have that. I just want to make sure we had that, because the internet. I opened up my Twitter, Randy, after like 2 hours away from it, and my entire Twitter is just full of sister's wife or brother's wife's sister or brother's wife. That just those like 5 words, or it's like 6, 7 words, whatever it is, has now taken over my entire Twitter.
So they said it was an inappropriate relationship. Is there a more, and we can have people weigh in on this, is there a more inappropriate relationship than with a sister-in-law that you hired to be an employee in the union that you run?
I think
it wins, right?
It's the ultimate twofer. Like, it is the most ultimate twofer. And because people are asking which one's worse, wife's sister or brother's wife, and it's got to be brother's wife, because then you lose both families.
Oh man, wife's sister is really bad.
But you're still only pissing off one family,
right?
With brother's wife, you have now pissed off everyone involved in your circle.
It is this is a conundrum for me, because
I just couldn't believe it when I saw that.
Well, okay, yeah, if it's your wife's sister, you're right. That screws up that family and your family. But
brother's wife, now your brother hates you, your wife hates you. It's not like you're going to be able to, rebound with a relationship.
Like, if it's like 50% of families, your brother and you hate each other already. So, because every family has its level of dysfunction. Yeah. Oh, man, I don't know.
As soon as I saw that, I got in my car. I was like, I got to get back now, because I got to make sure that Wilson, who's always on top of it, I got to make sure this was communicated. Because I would legitimately was like, I can't wait to have a really nuanced discussion about how this affects the MLBPA and what this does for the lockout discussions. As soon as I saw that piece of news, I was like, no, I'm okay with this show essentially being TMZ today now.
It's pretty spectacular. Okay, so let's get some chats here and find out what the masses are thinking about this. Yes.
By the way, I was working. St. Louis City had their media day today, and it ran later than we expected, and we were in a scrum, and I thought it would have been very rude to just peel off from the scrum in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I knew Randy just had, baseball red meat to talk to you guys about. So that's what happened.
Okay. So Cards in 28, Tony the Tiger. He is, no question about it. Enrico Palazzo wants to know who paid your bail, Rock.
I know some of you would feel like you were in jail talking about soccer for 2 hours, but I quite enjoyed it.
I'm glad. Okay, you people are just you are mean. Sometimes
Okay.
you're mean in a very funny. I enjoy the meanness. I'm not saying I don't like it. It makes me chuckle. So
Enrico Palazzo. Owners need to look at it like this. It's not the Dodgers versus the Giants. It's actually the Dodgers versus the Lakers, Clippers, or whatever their soccer team is named. It's sport versus sport now.
that's going to be part of it if they have a lockout. But the biggest thing, and I was talking about MLB owners before they can even think. Well, they've already thought of a cap, haven't they? But before they can present a cap, for me, owners need to share revenue almost across the board. And I know you're never going to get across the board, but what they need to do is put a percentage of their revenue into a pot and then split it equally. So if you take 75 to 80% of the revenue, if the Dodgers take 75 to 80% of their revenue, Marlins take 75 to 80% of their revenue, Cardinals, Guardians, Mets, Angels, everybody put 75 to 80%, and it's got to be a hard percentage of a revenue into a pot, and then that money gets split equally. And this is revenue from tickets and local TV and radio. And then you split it up equally. Then you've got something. And then the Dodgers still have that advantage of, you've got to get something for owning the Dodgers or the Yankees. You deserve something more because you're in the number 1 or 2 market. You deserve to make more money. But then you can play within the confines of a salary cap. The Dodgers can continue to do a great job of developing young talent. The Yankees can continue to try to build the way they build. But a team like the Cardinals, especially teams like the Cleveland Guardians, would have a way better chance to compete because the Guardians are really smart. They just can't afford to keep their players. Yeah. So they would have a way better chance to compete if you had a scenario like that.
Yeah.
But you have to problem is you have to get the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets and Cubs to agree to it.
That'll be the tricky part. But, hey, listen, I mean, the Cubs, I feel like it might be an easy argument, Randy. You just got to go to them and be like, guys, listen, you guys lost not even a full season. You guys just lost fans for a season, and you guys withstood biblical losses. Are you willing to lose an entire season? No TV money, no fans, nothing. How do the Cubs survive? I mean, if COVID was biblical losses, I can't imagine what a completely lost season. The Cubs might fold if baseball has a lockout. So, I think if you go to them and you explain that to them, you could scare a small money team like the Cubs into really making some changes, or else they could be in real trouble, Randy.
Yeah, right. Now, this is the latest we have, revenues, and these are from 2024. And so most teams' revenues increased in 2025. The Dodgers in 2024 took in $752 million. Their 2025 payroll was $549 million. Just to compare that, again, overall payroll plus tax last year for the Dodgers, $549 million. The Cardinals' revenues from 2 years ago, from 24, were $373 million. Again, all the money the Cardinals took in 2 years ago, $373 million, versus the Dodgers' payroll of $549 million. And the Mets had a payroll of $400 million. The Phillies were at $349. Again, the Cardinals took in $373. The Phillies paid $349. So the Yankees paid $362. Again, the Cardinals took in $373. So this is why you need to have more equitable foundations financially, because you just have teams that have zero chance of competing. With all due respect to Manny Machado, who said that every team could do what the Dodgers do, I would like to find out from Manny Machado how the Chicago White Sox, well, they're a bad example because they're idiots. How about the let me give you how about the more idiots? There are some idiots in baseball, aren't there, Matthew?
I think sports naturally idiots glom onto it.
But let's put the Reds and the Nationals in there. The Reds and Nationals should be able to compete. Both franchises took in $325 million in 2024. How do those two franchises, who generated revenue of $325 million. I asked this of Manny Machado. How do they match the Mets payroll of $400 million? The owner just says, yeah, you know what? I'll pay $75 million more than I'm taking in just so that I can get to the payroll. And that's before I pay any employees. That's before I pay any minor leaguers. That's before I pay for lodging for these players on the road, for travel for these players, for all the equipment that they're wearing. Before all of that, I'm going to be spending $400 million on payroll. I think that it's kind of impossible, actually.
Yeah, once you kind of put it,
Manny Machado is wrong. That's my point here. I think he's wrong.
Yes, and we'll just I'll put it up here on the banner. Just kind of the starkness. It's a pretty simple question, but I don't really see many answers to how do teams with revenues around 300 million play with a team that has a salary of 400 million. It seems like it's a precarious situation that was never going to last long. And luckily we have the Dodgers, who have kind of pushed everything over the cliff. According to reports, again, when the Kyle Tucker contract is signed, that apparently was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of these owners. I like the chat that I had up earlier about how, how do you kind of win this fight? The Dodgers need a league to play in to make all that money. And you think that might be enough of a factor. The threat of losing a season is going to be one thing, but them losing their leader is a little bit worrisome, unless they're open to getting kind of a mercenary who can kind of come in and be this and just be the main fighter for them through a labor negotiation. But the thing is that the comments that I've seen, Randy, is that they're gonna get an interim, and they're not really going to get a new executive director in this process. They're going to keep negotiating the way they have been. That seems like a mistake from the outsider's perspective. It seems like there's got to be somebody out there who's a lawyer, who's a labor pro, who's willing to make his career off of like getting this CBA done for the players. I'm kind of surprised that the subcommittee right now is just talking about a quick fix and not something groundbreaking that could kind of reset the terms when they go to the table with Major League Baseball.
I think what you need to do, though, is get somebody who actually likes baseball, because I mentioned earlier before you got here, they've got the Bulldog in Bruce Meyer, who's apparently just very difficult to like. So they've got their labor guy, but they need, in my opinion, they need somebody that also likes baseball and knows baseball players. Meyer is a numbers guy. So I think that they need somebody not above, but beyond this Bulldog guy.
Yeah, and I think if you're a fan of the NBA, you would also agree that having people who actually enjoy your sport is an important thing to have in leadership positions, because I'm currently watching the NBA being led by somebody who I'm not really sure actually enjoys the sport of basketball. And that is why we're now talking about AI content filling in for games. So baseball, see the mistakes other sports like the NBA have made, see the strides that other sports like the NFL have made, do the smart thing, get people into this negotiation who love baseball, get people into this negotiation who understand that a salary cap's the only way your league's going to survive the next 20 years, and make it so that we actually have something to watch next summer, please, God Almighty.
Yeah. And that's the other, I think you have to like baseball, because you have to understand that if you lose games in 2027, that will be a devastating blow to the sport. And Matthew, you were out at soccer today. Now soccer and baseball are pretty much going to be going head to head against each other in America, right?
They're actually making it a little bit easier where baseball now even gets one less person. Like there'll be no soccer games played during June, July, and August, like there was in previous seasons. So actually they're actually getting talking earlier about other ways people are going to spend their money and where their eyes are going to be. Baseball is actually getting an even clearer runway starting next season than it has been over the last 2 or 3 years.
Well, they always need, they're going to need to, baseball is going to need to be there. I mean, it took here's what it took for baseball to come back after missing the end of 94, and the World Series in 94 and the start of the 95 season. Even though you had Cal Ripken break the all-time games played consecutive record, that didn't bring fans back. Fans didn't come back until McGwire and Sosa hit a bunch of home runs. They were roided up, and they hit a bunch of home runs. Well, you don't have McGwire and Sosa anymore, and you don't have steroids anymore. So what is going to happen to bring fans back to baseball? If you don't have something like that, maybe that's what part of the CBA is. Maybe the owners have to go to the players and say, hey, we got to take out this steroid testing thing. Because unless you have something spectacular happening in baseball, fans aren't going to come back. Let's look at it this way, Matthew. If baseball would miss April and May, you miss 2 months. All of a sudden, they're back in June. People are still pissed off. Then what happens in July? The NFL is back, right? And then right after that, you get to August, and all of a sudden, early September, you've got NHL and NBA training camps back. So you're going to have people pissed off, and you're going to have people avoiding the sport. So I just think that it's imperative that they not miss any games. And you also can't have the kind of acrimony that we dealt with during the pandemic. I mean, we're in the midst of a major pandemic, and these people are arguing about how much money baseball players should make. You can't do that these days.
Can you imagine imagine if you were like a program director of a TV or a radio station in Baltimore, and the lockout takes out the starting of next year? Like, you're going to treat OTAs like it's the flipping Super Bowl for the Ravens. Like those June practices that get, that get barely a line of coverage in the paper during an actual baseball season in some towns, that becomes the only thing you're talking about for the entire month of June. Bam, the NFL wins again. 365, 24 hours a day. Boom. The NFL is the winner again because you decided to screw around and lose the monopoly you essentially have over major sports. After NHL and NBA end in late June, you get America until August. You get your all-star game, all of your history, all the pomp and circumstance, the beginning of your playoff runs. You get all of that completely free from the other three major sports in America. And now you're going to go into a season and potentially lose that goodwill, which is fine. The NFL would love the only thing in late April being crappy end of season NBA games, no baseball, no beginning of baseball, and then the draft. Oh, baby, we own everything all over again. The NFL wins Shangri-La.
They already do. They already do own because of the draft. Okay, I love the fact that we're thinking outside the box here. Skyboy 6767. Yes. Let small market teams do steroids. Great idea. Love it. But you mama with even a better idea, I think. Each team is allocated a certain amount of steroids based off of last year's record.
Okay. How about this, Randy? Completely different choice. I know this is going to suck for Miami and the Nationals and the Angels, but they don't deserve to have good things happen to them anyway. If your team is in a city that has direct access to an ocean or direct access to an ocean, you don't get you lose like $50 million in the salary cap. Everybody else inland gets an extra like $50 million, or you get to use steroids. If you're away from a beach, you get to use something to even out the game a little bit.
Okay, I can deal with that.
The Minnesota Twins get to use fans again.
Yeah, but maybe rather than the beach and the climate, maybe we just go by market size. I like the smaller market size teams getting steroids.
Yeah, I like this idea. Or, let's make it more of a game show. Let's pick like three things. Like you get X amount of money that is untaxed on your luxury tax or on your salary cap if we ever have that, or you can use steroids, or small market teams can still do the shift if they want.
Yeah, that'd be no, we don't need the shift. Okay, we need to spend a few minutes because we're talking about stuff that's not on the field. And this might be our last year to talk about stuff on the field. So we need to talk about what's going on down in Florida. Another day with Yadier Molina working with the catchers, more bullpens. Games are about to start, and we'll learn a lot more. And I'm intrigued by everything that's happening down there under the new regime of Chaim Bloom. And I don't know if it seems different to you. I thought yesterday when we had the discussion about bringing more former players into camp, Obviously, that was something that the previous regime didn't want to do. They actually kind of drove Willie McGee away. And I don't know if he's coming back or not, but I think it'd be a good thing to have him there. But it seems like a much more competitive, because it's younger, and a much more exciting camp, at least in talking to the people that have been down there, and Joe Roderick on his way back. It seems like just a different vibe. I said a few years ago, Matthew, when we were doing the radio show, that I thought that the Cardinals needed an organizational enema. I think they got it.
Yeah.
I think that it's just easier to breathe. It's not nearly as stale anymore.
Yeah, it's new. People, it feels like, if you have new ideas, they'll be accepted. They won't just be shunned away. There's some openness. New ideas are welcomed instead of being something you kind of got to slip in the back door. That's kind of the mindset I've been getting from everything. Seeing Yachty works with the catchers. I think a lot of people, I think you heard it from Claves when he did his show with Joe. You heard it from Joe. I think there's a lot of people who just, like, they got a little bit more confidence about what's going on when a guy like Yachty pops up, and things like that. And Yachty's talking to the media and things like that, which was kind of crazy. And he clarified his role. He sat down and did a great talk with Tamar Scher, and he mentioned he's going to be here for 2 or 3 series, and he goes and does the WBC, and his plan is to kind of be up in St. Louis for a couple series, but then he's going to be down in the minors working with the catchers. And if that's not music to the ears of St. Louis fans, obviously him working with Ivan Herrera and those guys right now is important. But the idea that Bernal and Rodriguez will get lengthy periods of time mid-season to work with Yachty or Molina, that's got to be one of the most enticing and exciting things I've heard about Cardinals baseball in the last 2 years, full stop. That might seem crazy. That might seem like we've lowered the bar of what is an exciting thing for Cardinals fans, but that is the future of this team and potentially the backbone of the future of this team. So that's wildly important. Just as horrible and terrible, and the reason why we keep mentioning the lack of catching instructors in this organization over the last few years, we have to do a 180 and talk about then how big of a deal it really is that Yachty's going to be down there working with these catchers every once in a while. Well,
and it's not just catchers, but if you are a young Latin catcher, if you're Bernal, if you're Raynel Rodriguez, if you are Ivan Herrera, and you're a catcher, you probably revere him. So I think that it not that Jimmy Crooks would not, but I would think that he's just looked upon by these Latin players as kind of godlike. And if the opportunity to work with him probably is incredible. So I think it's got to be exciting for the young catchers, and hopefully what he is able to impart to them will make a difference and make them valuable players, whether here or for trades down the road.
I like this one from Cards in 28. The next Cardinal not named Winter Scott to win a Gold Glove. Ooh.
Maybe it is Bernal.
I'll go with JJ Weatherholt at second base, because this is kind of a cheating answer, because if you pop and you have a big offensive season at second base, all you need to really do is play a fairly average second base defensively. People will probably end up giving you a Gold Glove. And so I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not saying he's the next great defender, but I'm saying is that because of the position he plays, I feel like JJ Weatherholt is in line to be the next person after them to get a Gold Glove.
Okay.
It would also work. Jordan Walker in right field could also pull off that feat, I think.
That would be interesting. I would be surprised if Jordan Walker wins a Gold Glove.
Would you be surprised if he breaks out, if he has a breakout season and he has like 28 home runs and he has a couple of big plays out there? I mean, Marcell Ozuna won a Gold Glove.
Well, that's true. Is Weatherholt ever going to beat out Nico Horner?
Oh, that's a really good point. He does kind of that is, you know what? Come to think of it, that's going to be really hard for him to do.
Yeah.
Potentially, my God, Horner had top 20 MVP votes last year. Yep. That's kind of crazy.
I don't think Tommy Edman will play enough.
No. What was his defensive run saved last year? So he had a defensive run saved of
Tommy?
No, Horner. He had a defensive run
Oh,
saved of 7.
ridiculous.
That's run saved above average of 17. Total zone run 7. Okay, that's pretty good. Damn, that's a big range factor as well. Yeah, he probably that really does make it tricky. It's just how many times have we seen though a guy hit the crap out of the ball and beat out a better defender for a Gold Glove? We've seen it
Yeah.
before. And there's a potential with Horner only being most times a single digit home run guy. There's a chance that Weatherhold hits like 25 and wins one. But to your point, it's not a very long list after Winter Scott.
No. And along the lines of you're talking about offense, if Acuna is healthy, Fernando Tatis Jr. is already a Gold Glove winner.
Yep.
You've got Tucker in the league who had a down year last year, but has been pretty good. Corbin Carroll, when he's healthy, is a good defensive right fielder. You've got some guys who Frelick can play out there. I think it's going to be really hard for Jordan Walker to ascend beyond those guys, even if he winds up having a really good offensive year. It's just so many guys. Yeah,
I think Cards in 28 probably just beat us to it. Dark horse candidate. A pitcher is probably the most likely answer.
Yeah, that could be. That's
a really good call by Cards in 28. I like that.
Yeah. All right, a couple more minutes here. What's the biggest takeaway today from St. Louis City SC, who, by the way, opens up Saturday 1:30 over at Energizer Park?
I think the biggest thing is that there was a pretty massive change in the system, and a lot of the players, whether this is like a purposeful thing or not, or it's just so apparent that all the players are bringing it up, is that last year the team was horribly unfun to watch. To start the season, they teams weren't scoring on them, but they couldn't score a goal to save their life. A lot of the players are talking about how different this beginning of the season feels compared to last season when they could not score. There's a lot more of a focus on maintaining the ball and actually having confidence to have the ball and not just needing to always just take it from the other team and immediately score and that being your only offense. They are still a high pressing team, but now it's high pressing combined with a high level of possession. And so every player talked about that. A lot of players also talked about that, pretty short preseason, a lot of things to work on. It's what they look like on Saturday is not what they are going to look like in May or July. So there's a lot of talk about how the team's getting better. They're getting into this system from DeMay, but there is a lot of room to still grow into it. So I think you're going to see a team that, much like the Cardinals, that is still growing during the season, and there's going to be some positivity in what we see as they grow during the season, but there's going to be a lot of room to criticize the actual results. And that's completely fair. If people want to rag on this new organization, this new front office or new sporting director and the new coach and things like that, that's completely fair. But I think, again, like the Cardinals, I do trust that from Ray to DeMay to the team, there's actually a plan now. And the plan seems a lot more cohesive, and everyone seems to be pretty locked in on the plan. The issue right now is that they're dealing with injuries and some other issues. They're playing a 3 center back, 3 back line, and they're 2 of their top 3 center backs are not going to be involved in probably the first 3 or 4 match days. One of them, Falou Fall, who came here last year, is injured. The other one, Mamadou Mbake, does not have can't get his visa. I'm not sure what's stopping the visa. I don't know if this is a political, if it's a politics thing or what. This is why soccer is kind of goofy, is that we have to talk about visas at times and green cards and things like that. So they're down 2 of their top 3 defenders. They're also potentially down one of the best players in Edward Leuven, who didn't really practice at all in the preseason because he was back here in St. Louis dealing with his family thing with his wife in the hospital. And so there's a lot of stuff going on with injuries. They got rid of João Klaus. They didn't actively replace him by getting a new striker. So there's a lot of balls in the air right now. I refuse to lie to anyone and say I have a ton of confidence that this team's a playoff team. I have almost zero confidence that this team is a playoff team. But again, it's a lot of the teams in St. Louis are in similar spots right now where I believe that there are adults who are behind the wheel. And because of that, as long as I see growth, I'm willing to jump along for the ride.
Good. And we will be at the Key on Friday at 3:00 as the Billikens get ready to play, and we're going to have a little remote action at the Key from 3 o'clock on Friday before that 6 o'clock game against VCU. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The VCU game has a chance to be an absolutely monumental game. Billikens play Rhode Island tonight, coming up at 6 o'clock on ESPN+. If they win that game, that'll be 19 straight, Randy, and that means Friday Night Slew will be going for their all-time program record for consecutive wins. VCU, 6 p.m., will be down at the Key, right across Olive from the Chaffetz Arena parking garage, starting at 3 p.m. Going to be a great show. Going to have some live guests talking all Billikens basketball and any other baseball news that comes down that day, because obviously we got to do what we got to do. Plenty of Billikens basketball, though. Smash burgers, shrimp tacos, great fries, great fried food overall down at the Key. It's going to be a great time. And again, Billikens facing off against Rhode Island tonight, Randy. Is it fair of me to call this a potential trap game? The line has moved from minus 12.5 to minus 9.5. So I wonder if the Billikens' usual midweek malaise, these Tuesday night games, have kind of threatened to bite them in the ass. I do wonder if this game is a little bit of a trap potential tonight in Rhode Island.
No doubt about it. When you look at some of the first halves the Billikens have had, especially in these midweek road games, yeah, I think absolutely it's a trap game. But by the way, I want to respond to Tony Korn. No salary cap. It is anti-labor and anti-union to cap the amount a worker can make. Salary floor and revenue sharing only. These owners have the money. There is no baseball without the players. Let me start with this. We're not talking about the workers at the concession stands at the ballpark. We're talking about people that have minimum salaries of well over $1 million a year, and a group of people that are making on average $5.5 to $6 million a year. So this is not your typical worker. I would like you to do a little homework assignment for me, Tony or Tootie, and tell me where the money is. Again, as I asked Manny Machado earlier, the Cardinals have revenues of $373 million. The Mets have a payroll of $400 million. Tell me how the Cardinals pay that $400 million. And if there is no cap, then how do the teams that are in lesser, smaller markets compete? If there is no cap, and you aren't going to have across-the-board revenue sharing, because you're even in the NFL, you don't have across-the-board revenue sharing, but you do have the cap in place. So my question would be, how do you prevent the Dodgers, who have all these partnerships with companies in Japan? Last year, they paid for the $700 million of Shohei Ohtani's contract just with partnerships with companies in Japan. I'm not sure how St. Louis or Minnesota or Cleveland compete with that. But if you can explain that to me, that the teams have the money, I would like to hear the answer. And I'd like to hear it from Manny Machado too.
Also, I don't think it's anti-labor or anti-union, because the Dodgers are completely, they can build up a baseball roster of $600 million. They can pay a baseball roster $1 billion if they want. They don't get to play in Major League Baseball with it, but they can go barnstorm and sell tickets however much they want. But if you want to play in a league apparatus that does marketing for your team as part of their marketing, that sells ads, and you get marketing because of that puts together a TV program and holds all these events, and advertises things like the World Series that you play in because you're in a league. Like, if you want to be part of a league that facilitates you making money, you got to play by the rules. And if you don't want to play by the rules, you don't have to be part of our league. But unless you want to be Banana Ball 2.0, you got to follow some rules. Again, you can leave all you want, but if you enter into the league, you got to follow rules. That's just the way it is. You're completely free. No one's stopping you from barnstorming like the Savannah Bananas. Nobody's stopping you. Shohei Ohtani's not going to want to play for you. But that's what Major League Baseball gets for building a legacy over 100 years.
Top wage. This is for the big three automakers in the UAW. The top wage of production workers increases to $42 an hour, or roughly $87,000 a year. Are you telling me that the United Auto Workers are anti-union and anti-labor?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, because they have a salary cap. Their top wage is $42 an hour. So I'm just saying. I don't think they're anti-union.
And also, and also, by the way, the NBA does stop how much money you can pay a team. Right now, no one in Major League Baseball has even brought up the idea of max contracts. You can pay a player whatever you want. You might not have enough play movement under the cap to then sign the rest of the team that's going to make you possible. But if it's a $400, if it's a $189, if it's a $200 million cap, and you want to pay a player $205 million, you can. It's just going to be really tough to build the rest of your team. No one's telling. I have heard no one bring up the idea of max contracts in Major League Baseball. The NBA has them.
No.
Some would argue it's anti-labor, but it exists.
Well, and I would argue again. For example, in the National Hockey League, the maximum in any given year that you can give a player is 20% of what the salary cap is.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's a bad thing, because that's actually more union, isn't it? Because it provides more money for other players.
That's an important part of a union.
You pay one player 80% of your cap, and in the NHL, you can only pay your player 20% of your cap. I think that works well for the other players on the team.
Yeah, that's kind of the big part of the union, is because you have parameters on the top. It makes sure that everyone on the bottom is able to live their life. And obviously this is when we're talking about the difference between 50 million and 700,000, it's a little bit of a different conversation. But yeah, sports are not businesses. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It's weird. It's weird, but we live in a world where we kind of have to always deal with it being in a limbo. And I think I give the benefit of the doubt to the people 50 years ago who figured out this is how sports leagues have to work in American business. And I feel like they've done a pretty good job of figuring out how it works inside of the capitalistic structure, while also having these bounds of like built-in parity, which are kind of, not very capitalistic, but are really necessary to having a fair fight on the field of athletics, which we like a lot more than the free market. I know we always talk about being the free market, but again, we're literally sitting here talking about a lockout because baseball was the free market and people did not like how it ended up going.
Right. And at the end of the day, and as distasteful as it is, the billionaires are the owners. They're the ones who had the money to buy the franchises and pay the players. So at the end of the day, it's the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
There it is, Randy.
Yep. Great stuff. Thank you, sir. And we will see you tomorrow. And we'll be on at 3 tomorrow, won't we?
Yes, we will.
Looking forward to it. That's Matthew. I'm Randy. Wilson got us on the air. Hey, thanks for participating. It was great to talk to you folks. We'll do it again tomorrow. And we want your feedback. And we will talk more on-field stuff tomorrow here on the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Center. We'll see you, everyone.